Hi guys, my name is Anthony Cummins, a historical researcher. I've come on today to have a quick conversation with the world of YouTube and ask a few people for their opinions, but also not just their opinions, actual historical research. So while you can put your opinions below, please state this is my opinion. My opinion is this. And can you please also say this is taken from such a document. But I have some unanswered questions about swordsmanship, Japanese swordsmanship, and the way it's used or the way it's portrayed nowadays. So I go through, it's only 1 or 2, 3 questions, and I want to hear your opinion. Now, first of all, I did a series called Sitting Down with a Samurai Sword, and it never got answered. I put out the series and the answers just didn't come. So I want to bring back the question here, is that there are many schools today in Japan who teach swordsmanship from sitting down, from a seated position. Now, you know, we are not talking about cross-legged, where you're sat in armour and you draw and stand up from in armour. We're talking about in a kneeling position where you're talking to, you know, you're in normal clothes and you're talking to a friend or whatever. But there seems to be an unanswered question and an issue here, and nobody seems to have the actual answer, only opinion. And I don't want just opinion for this, I want some actual truth, you know, so let's get some quotes going. Now, the issue is that as far as we're aware, in samurai communities, when you walked into someone's house or in a building, you take your sword off your waist and you put it into a special alcove or a special area in the house. Now this means you sit down with your wakizashi on. Or you take your katana and you put it at the side of you. You know, which will lead me to my second question. So, you've put the katana at the side of you or it's away. So why do these people draw from a katana in the waist? Now, in my video series, I actually found some Edo period prints of people sat down, kneeling down, sorry, with a katana in their waist. So it begs the question, which is correct? That every time you enter a house, the katana is taken off the waist, or sometimes you can sit down with a katana at the waist? It has to be one of these two. So if you cannot sit down with the katana at the waist, why do so many schools practice drawing from kneeling down, you know, this kneeling down in normal clothes? It's an unanswered question that people, I think, are ignoring in the world of Iaido, the world of swordsmanship, and the world of Japanese martial arts. So, just to quickly round that one up, when you sit down, you take your sword out, is this done 100% of the time? Yes or no? I have found, remember, I have found Edo period prints with it actually being sat down with them in their waist, inside a building. So I would say they could sit down with them in certain times, which would make sense because that means then that's why they study sitting down with a sword. But some people disagree. Or if you have to take your sword off, why on earth do you study this, seeing as it's useless? Because what's the point? Why don't I practice Iaido with balancing the katana on my head? I never do it, but what if I need it, or under my armpit? So don't come back with the opinion, or just to practice from different positions. Well, practice on one leg with your hand in your ear and jump. That's a different position, but we don't practice that, so because we don't do that, so why should we practice it? So I think we must have sat down with swords, because I've seen some prints, but blah blah. Anyway, next one, question 2 is, so leading on from this, is you take your katana out, yeah, and you put it on the floor. Now, I have heard multiple people talk about this from different things, and I've read in some of my scrolls and articles and things like that of, you know, these ancient scrolls that we translate, of different ways to do this, but I've never actually had a concrete answer on what happens. Now, do you put the sword to your left side, or do you put the sword to your right side? Do you put the sword with the blade out, or do you turn it with the blade in, so it bends that way? So it bananas away from you, or it bananas into you? Which one? Are there different versions? Where are the different versions recorded? I did try to talk to James Williams about this, but our sort of thread got lost on one of his videos. So, and he was saying something about that, but I say the thread, I think it just got lost in all the people asking. So again, I'll ask him. Anyone out there who knows of this? I presume it wasn't one version, because I've read multiple versions, and I presume it's not just you take your sword out and you put it down next to you and it's got to be handling. Or handle out, or it's on the right side. I've heard things like when you're in friendly company, you put it on the right to show you're not going to draw your sword. If you're in company, you're unaware of who they are, you put it on your left so you can draw. I've heard lots of different things, but nobody's ever found a proper academic paper on this or a Japanese translation. Can anybody help me there? And third Third is probably going to annoy some Iaido people, but try not to get too annoyed. Now, Iaido, like Kyudo and all the dos, are basically later additions or later examples of earlier practical skills. So where Kyudo would be clearly impractical now, you wouldn't stand for 5 minutes and shoot at someone, they'd have probably charged and cut you down. And Iaido now is very much on the beauty of the art and very much on centering yourself, and I think is impractical because, you know, you don't do that in a real fight. So my question is when we should there be a separation, or should there be a highlight of the fact that people who practice Iaido stand there and they talk about having your legs this position, the calf muscle in this position, the angle here, and then I've heard, and it's very beautiful and it's very good, and that you've got to talk about the sword is this many inches, and I'm thinking there is no way that Iai, the original version, or Bato Jutsu and all that Bato, there's no way that they did it like that. No chance whatsoever. And my reason for that is that when I've read in the scrolls, we're doing Natoryu, we're bringing out Natoryu, and in the scrolls it talks about practicing with Iai, not Iaido, Iai, and it talks about when you suddenly come across someone who's an enemy, i.e. you've on a mission of vengeance, you want to kill them, and you quickly have to strike them down. So come across means you're walking, or you've bumped into them out in the street, or you've noticed them in the distance, and you're legging it up to, like, you know, kill them, and you've not drawn your sword, you're like bang, and bang, down they go. So the idea is you are not stood still, you are not in this position, you are not got your hips the right way, you have not got your sword out, you are literally bang, you're right mate, bang, cut down, or I know you dragging them outside. And the other thing is for criminal capture. In the Bansen Shukai it talks about quick draw, and I think it's the eye in there, and it says when you're capturing criminals. So I can't imagine people standing in this erect position with their sword and moving like this when they're capturing criminals. The idea is people are chasing down streets and you've got ropes, so you're trying to hook people. So Iai is because you're roping, maybe that's gone wrong, you quickly draw and cut the leg, or you quickly draw and slice down. My point is Iai has no set position where we start. So my question to you is, why do we practice Iaido like this, even though it's traditional, meaning that it came from last century Japan or before, and everything's very static, as you know I've discussed many times. Why don't we practice it while we're running? Or why don't we practice it when we bump into people moving through doors? Or I think we should practice it where people knock shoulders and then people draw. Or you should practice it from falling over and standing up. I think the way we practice Iaido now is not the way that it would be used in the later Sengoku period, or the Edo period, or even in later Edo period when it's a case of people were fighting in the streets. You know, at the end of the Edo period, people started to fight in the streets of Kyoto, and there's lots of and there was quick drawing going on, and really skilled swordsmen were hired. So my question is, why do we practice such a static version of what is clearly a very lively and enthusiastic? Please don't get me wrong here. The answer most people come up with is basics. But people, I've seen top level 10th dans who are still doing basic, still drawing like this and still very, as I've just described. In my opinion, it was a life skill that you needed to cut down quick. So why are we not practicing it as a life skill still? Where has it got lost? So they're my 3 questions I would like answering, or your opinions on. Let me know what you think. So crack on below, crack on Facebook, and enjoy yourself.